Asheville, North Carolina, known as a hub for musicians and artists, nestled high in the Appalachian Mountains, was decimated by Hurricane Helene in September 2024. Lots of creatives in the area lost their equipment and their homes overnight. To help raise awareness and support the recovery efforts, the Splice team headed down to Asheville to record local musicians and collect field recordings of the area. The royalties from these sample packs will go towards Arts Asheville, a nonprofit that's helping support the recovery efforts.
We're here in the historic WWNC radio station studio that in its new incarnation is Citizen Studios, and in this very room thousands of acts played over the airwaves. There is a long-standing tradition of music here in Western North Carolina that goes back many generations. The greater community really embraces and enjoys and supports our music community here in Asheville. So it's really a strong, supportive community to be a part of. Sort of the bedrock or the staple genre of music that's been represented here in the mountains of Western North Carolina is rooted in old time and more traditional music, and there's a really, really rich tradition that we all enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the history of Appalachia is really interesting with a lot of the settlers coming from Scotland and Ireland and bringing their traditional tunes here, and the culture here is very much, at least in the old time in bluegrass circles, is you get together and you pick tunes and you play these melodies that are 16 bars long and have an A section and a B section. Some of them are more complex, but generally they're pretty simple harmonically and melodically.
Only now have we started to really uncover how big of a contribution African Americans have made to this music. A lot of great research being done on the history of the banjo and banjo players. The banjo, of course, is an instrument that originated in Africa. This kind of traditional music, to me, represents a real amazing combination of the African music styles that persisted in the music here during slavery and then after, and then of course, pairing with other musical influences from people who were moving here from Europe and places over there, bringing the violin, and creating this sort of combination of the fiddle and the banjo, and it just created this kind of magic sound that busted loose and really became a thing of its own.
These mountains are really, really old, the Appalachian Mountains, and whenever I go in there and I hear the water of the stream, I kind of forget everything. And that's similar to when you're playing music. You just kind of are in the moment. And so you can take this in the moment feeling and you can just really put it inside your music. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of living in this area.
So there's a fascinating history of music other than old time and bluegrass in Asheville and in Western North Carolina. Some examples include Nina Simone, who was from Tryon, Roberta Flack, who was from Black Mountain, and then you have Bob Moog, who pioneered the Moog synthesizer, the analog synthesizer, who relocated and had his business here, based here in Asheville for a couple of decades at least. Really, Moog represents this really cool intersection with sort of the forefront of music technology. That legacy has really created sort of a community here of people who love analog synthesized music, sort of the avant-garde nature of it. But then there's a great jazz scene in Asheville too. I mean, it's amazing to me for a city as small as it is. There's an amazing amount of wonderful players here, jazz players who have relocated from places like New York or LA.
The main thing in Asheville is the creativity, and people just want to be here to collaborate with other musicians and start projects and then record them at awesome studios like this one, Citizen Vinyl. So
on September 27th, Asheville suffered the devastating impact of Hurricane Helene. We lost power for in some places for weeks. We had no potable water for over 7 weeks here in the community, and it really it really impacted everyone, but the local music community was particularly impacted because venues were shut down because they couldn't host people due to not having power or water. And many musicians lost their equipment. Some lost their homes. Some lost their lives due to the flooding and the wind damage from the hurricanes.
Yeah, the hurricane was it was just crazy that it came through and struck Asheville in this way. No one was expecting it, of course. And there's a lot of the community, even driving around Asheville recently, that is still, it looks like it's still under mud, and under silt from the river rising and tearing through it.
The silver lining of what's happened here is that I haven't seen, the level of grace and resilience in a community, the way in which this community has shown up for one another to support each other, even immediately in the aftermath of the hurricane, has been one of the most beautiful things I've ever been a part of.
It was really special to see everybody just chipping in to help each other. No one cared what side of the aisle you were on in that situation. And there was a lot of beauty in that, in the people coming together to help one another.
A beautiful thing was that, what resulted was a lot of benefit shows and people donating their time and musicians who just wanted to make music because they needed to scratch that creative itch, so to speak, but they also knew that it could help people feel some sense of calm and perhaps normalcy. I really do think that this experience has brought people together in a pretty amazing way. It's a shared experience that everyone can feel a sense of connection about. And at a time like this, that creates a kinship, I think, among folks and among community members. And when you have that kind of kinship, that sort of sense of community, I think it has a positive impact on just the culture of the region, including music. Yeah, so a lot of the styles that we did here at Citizen Vinyl for these sample packs were sort of a constellation of bluegrass and traditional music styles, using a lot of acoustic instrumentation, but also drums on most of it to give it a hardcore pulse and groove. And so a lot of banjo, acoustic guitar, upright bass. I ended up playing upright bass and some cello banjo, just to add as much color as I could. And on upright bass, I was doing typical pizzicato, playing with my fingers, but also doing a lot of bow work to kind of add some string sounds to it to fill things out a little bit.
So we did 2 packs over the past 2 days. We did one that was more in the Americana bluegrass genre, focusing on kind of traditional chord changes and rhythms. And then we did another pack that was kind of more neo-bluegrass is what we're calling it, which is more rhythmic and has some different kind of funkier chord changes and harmonies.
I think one of the best ways that people from afar can support the community here in Asheville is to support the small businesses and the individual artists. We're very grateful that Splice is doing this project here in town and is going to be supporting Arts Asheville artist grants as a result of this project. So thank you for doing that. We're very grateful.